Dr. Ali completed his PhD in English language at the University of Nottingham under the supervision of Professor Zoltan Dornier and Norbert Schmidt. His research interests include motivation theory, research methodology, and complexity. Dr. Ali, we are doubled honored today to have you as our speaker and to be part of our faculty member. The mic is all yours, Dr. Ali, and we are all ears.
Okay, thank you for inviting me today. Is my voice clear?
Very clear.
Yes, thank you. Today I'm going to talk about, as you can see here on the screen, differentiated instruction, response to intervention, and artificial intelligence. So what is this differentiated instruction? What is response to intervention? And then, how artificial intelligence can be used in this domain. Okay, so first, let's start with classroom realities. First, teachers have to struggle with large classes, and in each class, there are different ability levels among students. And to make things even more complicated, different students have different interests. So if you give a reading material, for example, or a listening material or a type of activity, some students may struggle. And those who do not struggle may not be interested in this reading material also. Teachers also, as part of classroom realities, have to deal with tight pacing schedules and exams and quizzes. They have to cover certain materials in a specific period of time, despite the above issues. They also have heavy teaching load, different classes. They don't have time to prepare. They have even admin tasks, the cherry on the top to make teachers too busy. So what is differentiated instruction? So one explanation of differentiated instruction is that ensuring that what a student learns, how he or she learns it, and how the student demonstrates that for testing, what he or she has learned is a match for that student's readiness level, interests, and preferred mode of learning. And a readiness match maximizes the chance of appropriate challenge and growth that's related to their abilities. An interest match heightens motivation, and learning profile increases the efficiency of learning. So in other words, there are three parts here. There is content, tailoring content to the student and their abilities, the process of how they go about making sense of these ideas, and the product or the output and how they demonstrate what they have learned. So a simplified explanation, this is from Wikipedia, of differentiated instruction. There is content, process, and the product. So adapting content, then individualized teaching, and then what type of product they have, whether they engage in products, or they engage in writing or oral presentation to demonstrate what they have learned later on. And more technically, from an academic paper, from this paper, differentiated instruction. Before the lesson, the teacher needs to plan and know the students, gain insights about the curriculum and how it matches the students' levels. Then during the lesson, the teacher may engage in homogeneous clustering of students with the same design for homogeneous groups, or heterogeneous clustering, differentiated by division of task or varying levels of support for individuals within a heterogeneous group, or individualized. So from this perspective, different learners will have different types of instructions and evaluation. Some of them may need foundational knowledge, some of them transformational in terms of ideas, information, etc., etc. Some of them may get concrete examples, some of them may benefit from abstract examples, simple, complex, single facet, multiple facets, small leap, great leap, more structured, more open, less independence, greater independence, slow and quick. Also, different preferences. Some people may be interested in fine arts, literature, technology, athletics, sciences, modes of expression, oral, written, design, build. You know, they may be interested in mathematics, history, social sciences, etc. And the list goes on. And then with differentiated instruction, you can go to Bloom's taxonomy, where the lowest part will be remembering, just recalling facts and basic concepts, define, duplicate, list, memorize, repeat, state. A higher level will be explain ideas to demonstrate understanding. The higher level will be to apply this into new situations, implement, solve, demonstrate, interpret. Then analyze, draw connections among ideas, differentiate, organize, relate, compare. Then evaluate, justify a stand or decision, and then finally create. So basically, this is the main idea of differentiated instruction. Perhaps this sounds clear, straightforward. Different learners receive different types of instruction and are asked to produce different things suitable to their abilities. Now, pretty much everything I have said so far is debatable, has been criticized, and anybody who has some awareness of this literature, I guess, must be cringing at what I have said. Some of this is considered pseudoscience, very problematic, and so I hope that nobody has stopped watching because of the myths and the, you know, things that are criticized and at the beginning of this presentation. So let's see the problems in pretty much everything I have said so far. First, learning styles has been shown to be pseudoscience. You know, different learners have different styles and they learn better if you match the style with their style to the instruction they receive, as we will see. Equality, you know, this is idea of equality. Should you treat students equally, give them the same instruction, the same quality of instruction, or should you differentiate this instruction based on different people? Is there any evidence of effectiveness? We will see this when researchers tried to test differentiated instruction. Was it really effective? Practicality, it's labor intensive if you want to understand each and every student in your classroom. And you may be teaching different classes, so you may easily teach hundreds of students per semester. And if you want to tailor the instruction in every class to every student, you can imagine the labor-intensive nature of this job. But as we will see later, this can be solved with artificial intelligence. We will see applications in the last part of this presentation. So, what is learning styles? You know, some people are, sad to be social. Some people logical, mathematical. Some people prefer auditory stimuli. Some people visual stimuli, verbal, solitary, and physical. And this idea, despite being pervasive in popular culture, is actually considered a myth by researchers. So this is one example, as you can see here. Stop propagating the learning styles myth. There are many other papers of the same idea, expressing the same idea. I chose this one because it's just clear from the title. You don't really need to go deeper to get the main idea. Just the title is enough for this idea. So is this a problem? Let's just a quick look at the abstract. The answer is a resounding yes. Broadly speaking, there are a number of major problems with the notion of learning styles. First, there is quite a difference between the way that someone prefers to learn and that which actually leads to effective and efficient learning. So this is the conflation here. If somebody prefers to learn in a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is in their best interest. These are two different things. You may prefer to eat a certain amount, certain type of food, but that doesn't mean this is a good choice. Preference is something, and effectiveness or usefulness is completely something different. And there is research showing that you may prefer something, but in reality, what's effective is something else. Second, the preference for how one studies is not a learning style. Again, learning style, you may prefer something. After time, you may prefer something else. In different subjects, you may...
حياك الله، كيف حالك؟ طيب الله يسلمك.
تتواصل مع الشركة إن شاء الله.
You can proceed.
So it's not really a learning style. And most so-called learning styles are based on types. They classify people into distinct groups. The assumption that people cluster into distinct groups, however, receives very little support from objective studies. And then when they did studies, they found learning styles is kind of not really strong. Finally, nearly all studies that report evidence for learning styles fail to satisfy just about all of the key criteria for scientific validity. This article delivers an evidence-informed plea to teachers, administrators, and researchers to stop propagating the learning styles myth. Okay. Why? Humans have evolved to build a picture of the world through our senses working in unison, exploiting the immense interconnectivity that exists in the brain. And it is when the senses are activated together, the sound of a voice in synchronism with the movement of a person's lips, that the brain cells fire more strongly. So when you use multiple senses, you tend to learn better than when you use a single sense, even if you claim that you prefer that single sense. So, okay, again, another criticism, misguided intentions. If you give students choice, basically you are saying, I'm going to make the student comfortable. So to what extent are you going to extend this logic? If they don't like writing, are you going to say, okay, you don't like writing, so we are not going to assess you on writing, we are going to assess you on speaking. If somebody doesn't like speaking, we'll say, okay, we're not going to assess you on speaking. To what extent are you going to extend this logic now? Also keeping in mind that, preferences does not really match the best evidence practice, because they may learn in a different way better than their preference. Also in assessment. And also there is a risk of pigeonholing. When you say, okay, the teacher is going to make this decision and classify students, you are in this ability and you are in that ability group. I'm going to give you this to match your ability as I see it. So there is also a risk of low expectations and pigeonholing. So when they tried to do this, there was some resistance, even though these people are proponents of differentiated instruction. The philosophy of teaching and learning underlying these approaches conflicts with the deep structured beliefs about school commonly held in our society. Changing teachers' beliefs and practices requires substantial time. So, when researchers did some studies testing the effectiveness of differentiated instruction, but the research turned out to be unsystematic and conceptualization fuzzy and inconsistent. So when you say differentiated instruction, different researchers interpreted this idea differently, and this different interpretation was reflected in their study designs. So when you come and compare the output of this research, it turns out you are trying to compare apples to oranges. So here, this is a meta-analysis, and this is the 0 point. 0 means no effect. So this study, for example, is almost 0. This study is 0. This study kind of escaped 0 into the positive side. These 4 studies show high effectiveness. So overall, the effectiveness is kind of in here. But keeping in mind that you are comparing apples and oranges, so this outcome doesn't really mean much and is not really that convincing. Practicality, as I said at the beginning, it's labor intensive to identify students' levels and create this content, and you may divide the students into groups based on their abilities or their interests, and you have to keep up with them in every class, in every period in the semester. So it's labor intensive. What's the alternative, you may ask? So what are we going to do now? Some people propose this alternative called response to intervention, as opposed to differentiated instruction. So what is response to intervention and how it is different from differentiated instruction? There are 3 tiers to this approach. The first tier. First, you give high quality instruction to all students, no differentiation. You don't start with differentiation. You give the same instruction to all students in your class, high quality instruction. And then you test students to identify the struggling ones. This is tier 1. In tier 2, the struggling students that you have identified, you give them more intensive instruction because they are struggling. And then you give these students, you identify these students that are still struggling despite the more intensive instruction. And in tier 3, struggling students will need to receive individualized support. So it's kind of, there is some kind of differentiation, but it comes afterwards. So it's a different philosophy. So the first philosophy is you differentiate at the beginning. And in the second philosophy, you differentiate later on based on response to intervention. I'm going to ask you in a bit in the next few slides to choose which one you prefer. So keep this in mind and think about it. So early research, remember this is about 2 decades ago, they did study evaluating research using this response to intervention model. And it seemed kind of effective. These are strong effects, over one. These are very strong effects. The number of studies wasn't that many. Remember that this was, about 2 decades ago. Then more recent research, this was, just last year, they did this research. The overall effect was 0.33, which is kind of between small and medium, still with heterogeneity, which reminds us of the heterogeneity in differentiated instruction. So it didn't turn out to be that big either. And most of this research was on young learners. As you can see here from this table, these are different meta-analyses that compared. Meta-analysis is a collection of studies and collecting and summarizing the evidence in a number of studies. So these are different studies that have been conducted over time. And as you can see here, the participant grades from pre-kindergarten to 7 in this study, grade 7. So these are young learners from kindergarten to grade 5, to grade 3, grade 1 to 5, grade 4 to 5, kindergarten to 6, kindergarten to 5. So most of the research on this is on young learners, specifically on reading in the first language. So to what extent can we extrapolate these results on second language learners in different skills, young adults at college level, for example? So still there is more research to be done to examine the effectiveness of this approach, response to intervention, and compare it with differentiated instruction. So, as I said, I'm going to ask you to which approach you prefer. Do you prefer differentiated instruction where students are divided before the task? Students are divided first or after. So if you go to slido.com or use this QR code and just pick which one of these you prefer the most. Just now, 5 seconds. Okay, we have some people preferring response to intervention, differentiated instruction. Okay, so still kind of a tie now. Anybody else? Response to intervention seems to be taking the lead. Nobody is unsure. Everybody is sure. Interesting. Okay, so it seems that response to intervention is taking the lead now with 70% of the audience preferring it. Okay, somebody is unsure. Okay, so some people are not sure. Okay. Okay, let's move on now. Now, as I said at the beginning, one of the challenges, whether you divide the students first or later is that you will need at the end to create tailored instruction and tailored tasks to some students. And this can be labor intensive for teachers. So how can we use AI to create tasks more efficiently? And today I'm going to discuss one tool, which is Brisk Teaching. You can basically go to briskteaching.com and you will go to the home page and you just click add to Chrome for free. And it will be, a plugin will be installed in your browser. So tailored instruction, you will get a trial period first with the full features. After the trial period, you will still have access to the basic tool, which is very useful. So, and I don't think you can subscribe to it. It has to be an institution that subscribes to it. But we are going to try the free version today. And as you will see, the free version is enough for most intents and purposes anyway. So the free version, you can create quizzes, you can create rubrics, resources, exemplars, you can create lesson plans, you can create emails and newsletters, give feedback, inspect students' writing, change reading levels, translate text into different languages, upload rubrics and give aligned feedback, feedback insights, and personalized features. That's a lot. That's a lot for a free tool, of course. So let's have a demonstration. So I'm going to have this demonstration here. So this is an article from the BBC. So I chose this article because it is simple. We want to imagine that we are having a lesson, something like this, and how we can use AI tools to manipulate this text and generate questions, etc., etc. So, do two people remain best friends after race across the world? So this was a kind of recent article, just in the past few months. And it's a relatively short article. That's it. This is the whole article. So I'm going to have a look at it quickly with you so that we know when we feed it into AI, you know, we can see what we can do with it. So two friends who took part in BBC program based across the world said their relationship had remained intact despite dealing with the stress of their adventure. St. Alban schoolmates Alfie Watts, 20, and Owen Wood, 22, were one of 5 duos who had to race across Asia between Japan and Lombok in Indonesia without their phones, this is a key point, or access to bank accounts. So there was some, activity that, contest, you have to travel all the way from Japan to Lombok without, your smartphone. Mr. Watts said, we came out of the show thinking we were argument-free. I don't think we had any arguments, but to be honest, we might not recollect exactly what happened. Mr. Wood added, when we finished our race, you can get the time to reflect. So much happened, but at the end of the day, the person you did it with is arguably the biggest part of it. So there are different duos here. So these are the two that the article is focusing on. The BAFTA award-winning series returns to BBC One on Wednesday. The duos will cross 6 seas and 8 borders as they make their way to the finish line on the Indonesian island of Lombok, where the first to arrive claims a cash prize of £20,000. The two best friends admitted it was a challenge, not having access to technology. Mr. Oz, who is a referee for some football association, it's really difficult because you don't have Google Translate. You really do have to use your ingenuity. The dude said that they were still able to communicate with locals to find the best places to eat, as people in the continent were much friendlier than they are at home. Student pilot studying aviation who turned 20 during filming agreed local knowledge is better than Google half of the time. More than half of the time, really. 90% of the time, etc., etc. So this is kind of short article, short reading material, kind of not that difficult. Now we know the main ideas of the in this article. And as you can see here, this plugin is already installed in Chrome. And you may have noticed something here. Once you activate this plugin, you will have this button. Now we start with this tool. I'm going to click on it, and it gives me different options. I can create. I can give feedback. This is not directly relevant here because I'm not going to give feedback on this article. If it was a student writing, then I would give feedback, and change level. So let's start with change level first. Then we will test what create does. So when I click on change level, says this is grade 8. This article is evaluated to be grade 8. You can change the level, making it more difficult or less difficult, depending on your student. So let's try to simplify it. In English, you can use, I don't know if Arabic is there. It even has Arabic, interesting. So I'm going to create reading level now and see what happens. Finished. Now with one click, it generated a new Google Doc. Asked me to make it shorter, or you want to make it longer, you want more detail, or you want less detail, or you want to ask it to do it something, etc., etc. So many other options. We'll come back to some of these options in a bit. So I'm going to close it. Let's have a look and see what's going to happen now. Race across the world, St. Albans do, still best friends after show. It put the picture. I didn't ask it to put the picture. Two friends went on a race. Two friends named Alfie Watts and Owen Wood took part in a BBC show called Race Across the World. They said their friendship stayed strong even after the race was hard. It's simple language. The original article was not hard, but this is even easier. Alfie Watts is 20 years old and Owen Woods is 21. They are school friends from St. Albans. They were two of 5 pairs of friends who had to race across Asia without their phone or money. Very simple language. Then Alfie said so, and Owen added the show that wins awards on BBC One on Wednesday. Friends teams will cross six seas and go through 8 places, and they try to get to the finish line on the island of Lombok first. The first team there wins £20,000. Alfie helps with soccer, etc. The dude said Asia was nicer than people at home and would help them find good places to eat with their local knowledge. Then student pilot who turned 21 during filming agreed local people often know better than Google, like 90% of the time, etc., etc. So you can simplify the language with one click. You can decide which level you want and make it harder or simpler. So let's go back to the article. So I'm going to click on it again. And this time I'm going to create and see what we have. So it says create quiz, rubric, resource, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to start with the presentation. Going to click presentation. It says presentation in English, template. You can pick which template you want. Create a presentation about this page. I'm going to leave it as it is. Grade 2. 10 slides without images. Now, the images is if you subscribe to the paid version, you get images. So it's not a big deal if you don't have images. And let's leave it as at grade 2. And I'm going to click Brisket. So 11 slides. I didn't ask for 11 slides. Thank you for the extra slide. So it gives me, do you want more slides? Do you want to create a quiz? We will see a quiz later on. We're going step by step, etc., etc. So with one click, you suddenly have a full presentation. It's likely that you need to change things if you are going to use it, but you already have the first draft, which is a lot. Exploring new places with friends. Does the content have to be from a website? It doesn't have to be from a website. We will see some other things in a bit also. That's an interesting question. Welcome to our adventure. Today we are going to learn about an exciting race. Two friends, Alfie and Owen, race across Asia. They went on a TV show called Race Across the World. What is Race Across the World? It's a TV show where two teams race without phones or bank cards. They travel from Japan to Hamburg in Asia. The first team to cry. Interesting. Who are Alfie and Owen? They give you a description of them. The challenge of no technology gives you some points about it. Working together as a friend, they stayed friends even when it was tough. They didn't argue. Why do you think teamwork is important? Local knowledge versus Google. This is, you can see it took the main ideas and put each main idea in a different slide and expanded on it based on the article, which is, that's smart. You have to admit. Alfie and Owen talked to local people for help. They found the locals often know more than the internet. Learning from the locals, etc., etc. The excitement of travel. Traveling lets you see new things and meet new people across 6 seas, 8 borders. What places you want to visit? Winning the race, 20,000 pounds. Adventure on TV. Interesting. You have a first draft. You can change it the way you want. And it does most of the legwork. Okay, so going back to the article. Now, let's create a quiz. Let's try. See this quiz. Quiz in English. Create a quiz about this web page. I'm going to also add provide the answer key. You can change many things. You can change the type of questions if you want. You can change the number of questions. You can change the difficulty. Again, it's the same thing. You can, get, different types of prompts that you want to focus on certain areas. So it has a lot of flexibility. So we'll just see the basic idea now. So I'm going to click next. Ask me, do you want to create the quiz in new doc or form? Let's try doc first and then see form. So it's new doc. I'm going to Brisk it. And that's it. It's done. Do you want it more difficult, interesting? You have this. Or less difficult, shorter, longer? Let's have a look. First question, what is the name of the BBC program mentioned in the web page? Then the answer, you have the answer here. How many duos took part in the race? The answer, 5. Where did the race start and end? You have different answers. In Japan to Indonesia. What was the cash prize? And then you have different answers. And then you have the different questions here. You can adapt the question. You can change some questions. You can add questions. You have the first draft with a single click. So let's try the Google Forms to see how it is. So I'm going to keep this as it is. And this time I'm going to click this option for Google Forms and then Brisk it. Okay, it has generated the quiz. Long response, short, etc., etc. Interesting. It was my name as the one who made the edits. So, how many dudes took part in the race? 3, 5, 7. What did the race start? Then you have it. What was the cash prize? What did the participants have to give up? And if you click on it, you can edit. It gives you the correct answer is there. You can change and edit the options. You can make it required or not required. You can have the points. You can have everything. It's just there. Have the questions. You can decide how many questions you want. You want it short, you want it long, you want it long answer, short answer, multiple choice. It's all there with one click. Very interesting. That's very interesting. So going back to one question about whether it has to be a web page, I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to start something else. A video from YouTube. So this is a video from YouTube. It's very short, just 2 minutes. So we are going to listen to this. And as you listen to it, I would like you to imagine that this is a listening quiz for you. There's a lot of information in this 2 minutes. So try to focus, because we want to, again, generate questions about this content. Okay, just 2 minutes. Pay attention. Imagine you are in a listening quiz and be ready to answer questions afterwards.
My name is Nir Eyal, and I'm a behavioral designer. I study at the intersection of business, psychology, and technology to find new ways to help people change their habits through the products they use. So distraction is everywhere, and in fact, it's not a new problem. Plato talked about akrasia, the tendency that we all have to do things against our better interest. Well, today, of course, the world is maybe even more distracted, because unlike 2,500 years ago, we have these devices that we carry around with us all the time. So the fact is, while distraction is nothing new, if you are seeking distraction, then distraction you will find. And so what people get caught up in are these tasks that always feel urgent, that we're constantly reacting to things, and we have no time for reflecting on things. So when we talk about distraction, we have to make sure we understand what exactly we mean by this term. A lot of people will tell you, if you say, what is the opposite of distraction? They'll tell you the opposite of distraction is focus. But that's not exactly true. In fact, the opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. So traction is any action that pulls you towards what you want to do in life, things that you do with intent. The opposite of traction is distraction, anything that pulls you away from what you plan to do with intent. Most distraction in our lives starts from within. And an internal trigger is a response to an uncomfortable emotional state. When we feel something that we want to escape from, when we feel boredom, anxiety, fatigue, loneliness, stress, whatever it might be that we are experiencing, we are turning to distractions to feel something different. And that is why time management, fundamentally, is pain management. If we don't recognize the fact that if we don't deal with these responses to these uncomfortable emotional states, we will always get distracted by something.
Okay, so brief video, lots of information. So what can we do with AI now? you see it's still here, this button. When I click on it, to recognize that this is a YouTube video. Let's say create presentation in English, 10 slides, grade 2. Let's change the grade to make it grade 10, for example. Create a presentation about this YouTube video. Let's change the template. Let's make it, I don't know, this one, for example, just randomly. And Brisk it. Okay, so again, it gives me options. Do you want more slides? Do you want etc. etc. So with one click, we have the presentation, understanding distraction and traction in our lives. Welcome and introduction, welcome, etc. etc. We'll explore behavior pioneer. Didn't get the spelling right, but anyway. Distraction, a timeless issue. Distraction isn't a modern phenomenon. Even Plato discussed it. Today's distraction comes from devices we carry. Defining distraction and traction. Distraction, any action that pulls you away from what you plan to do. You can adjust this if you want, of course. You can like this. You know, you can change colors if you want. You can make it larger. You can, you know, adjust it. This is completely just PowerPoint, a regular PowerPoint presentation on Google presentations. So you have distraction, you have tractions. The opposite of distraction, common misconception, the opposite of distraction is focus. Reality, the opposite of distraction is traction. Internal triggers of distraction. Time management is pain management. Strategy is to overcome distraction. Reflection and traction activities, everything comes directly from the video. Creating a distraction-free environment, organize your space to minimize, etc., etc. And conclusion, personal commitment, and share your commitment with a partner and discuss how you plan to achieve it. So just out of curiosity, let's make it a presentation, but it's in simpler language and see what happens. Same content, let's say grade 3, for example. Let's see. Okay, so let's see the content now. Understanding distraction and traction. Welcome to Start. Today we're going to learn about distraction and traction. Distraction is something that pulls your attention away from you. You can think of a time you were distracted. People have been getting distracted for a very long time. Even a man named Plato talked about it. Interesting. Very simple language, you know, it doesn't assume that you know who Plato was. Distraction can come from things around us like toys and TV. What are some things that distract you at home or in school? Very simple language, the same content, but simpler language. So, and you have it. So let's quickly create a quiz about it just to see the process. So let's create a quiz about this YouTube video. I'm going to ask it again to provide the answer key because it may not provide it otherwise. And multiple choice and questions, etc. Let's Brisk it. Okay, so we have the quiz. What is the opposite of distraction? It gives you 4 options and the answer is traction. According to the video, where does most distraction in our life start from? External, social media, internal lack of focus, internal triggers. What is an internal trigger? A response to an uncomfortable emotional state. Accountability. What's time management fundamentally? Pain management. And then what did Plato talk about in relation to distraction? The tendency to do things against our better interests. Then you have them, you can change, you can edit as you want. So as you can see, it does this from a video. You can assign a video to students and create you can create a summary of it, you can create questions, you can create a presentation, you can create, it's very flexible to ask you, it's like ChatGPT interactively with content online. Ask it to read this content and do this task about it. Okay, let's do something finally before we finish. Let's do something maybe more interesting. So this is a lecture, what is the future of generative AI? The Turing lectures with Mike Woodridge. So this is a lecture, 1 hour lecture. We are not going to listen to it all, of course, but we want to see what we can do with it. Do we need to listen to a whole 1 hour lecture to get the main ideas of it? Or can we use AI to generate the main points of this lecture in one click of a button? I have a lecture of 5 hours. I don't want to waste 5 hours listening to the lecture. I just want to ask it certain questions or ask it to summarize the main points. And that's it. That's all I need. Let's see this description here. So this is the content of the lecture. What is machine learning? How do neural networks work? How Silicon Valley money created big AI, the birth of transformer architecture, how was ChatGPT trained and created, etc. ChatGPT, AI learn new things, ChatGPT, how not to use it, LLMS, bias and toxicity, copyright issues, interpolation and extrapolation, the dawn of general AI, the different varieties of general AI, what actually is human general intelligence, is machine consciousness possible? So these are the main ideas in the lecture. So let's say you don't want to listen to it, you just want to ask it to create a presentation. Let's say grade 10 in English, create a presentation of this video about the main ideas in this video. You can edit the prompt the way you want, and then I'm going to Brisk it. Okay, so let's see what we have. Understanding Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. And you have the main point. What is machine learning? And then you have the main point. The role of Alan Turing in AI. Neural networks and AI. The rise of big data and AI. Large language models. Capabilities and limits of AI. Challenges with AI, bias and toxicity. AI and consciousness. AI lacks consciousness and experience. The future of AI and general intelligence. And you have the main points here. Do you need to listen to the whole lecture now? Or can you also interactively ask it to, for example, create, let's say, for example, something else. Create something. Give me the main ideas about, let's say, according to the video, give me the main ideas about AI and consciousness. Use bullet points. Grade 10, let's see if it's grade 10, and Brisk. Then, if you are unhappy with the length, you can make it shorter or longer as you wish. Then you have main ideas about AI. This is from the whole video. Then the main ideas about consciousness, and you have bullet points here. Simple and straightforward. Let's say, for example, about create something else. What does the video says about bias? Let's change it and make it, grade 1. And then what's going to happen here? Brisket. So I didn't ask it to make bullet points, so it gave me prose. And in this video, the speaker discusses the issue of bias in artificial intelligence systems, etc., etc. The speaker highlights while efforts are made to filter out toxic content, the scale of training data makes it highly likely that some bias and toxic content is absorbed by the models, etc., etc. And then you have this content. So with artificial intelligence, go back now. So you have this Brisk teaching, free tool. The tool I have been, somebody saying you can't add it to the browser. Well, I'm sure you can't do it inside the college, but you can do it on your personal computer. Free tool that you can use to generate content interactively from websites. There are many other features. I don't have time to go through other features, including giving feedback on students' work, whether open feedback, whether using specific rubrics, whether using encouraging feedback. You have critical thinking skills. You have different things. It's just the power of AI is available using this tool for free. So, and here are the references if somebody's interested, and thank you for listening to this presentation today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. That was very impressive. I already see many implications coming in the horizon. Does anybody want to ask Dr. Ali any questions?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, there was a question I hope he would address. Do we have to use web content, or can we upload our own content and use such things for this Brisk? I think
For
someone
Brisk?
asked that before. Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting question. The answer is no, you don't need to use content available online. So this is a Google Docs file. I can use AI for this file on Google Docs. So I can go here and give feedback on this. I can create a quiz or a presentation or anything else I want. You know, I just put in the prompt here based on this that you make available in Google Docs. So you just need to upload it to Google Docs, open the Chrome browser or any browser compatible with it, make sure that this plugin is installed, and then Brisk it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Can we also see what languages are there? We can see in English.
Languages. So you have more than 20 languages here. Arabic is here, as we said. All these languages.
Thank you.
Does anybody
Other
want to ask any
questions?
questions? I think that's it. I personally would like to thank you very much, Dr. Al-Hoorie. I remember you introducing us to the ChatGPT, and it already became a practice, something I do automatically. I think this brisket is something new that will become part of our daily practices. You always show us the nice thing that technology has provided for us, and you give us the orientation for it. Thank you very much. That was very impressive, very informative. And we can start using it maybe today. If we have no further questions, we can conclude the sessions. Does anybody want to ask Dr. Ali anything? Somebody is asking about sharing the recording presentation. Dr. Ali, should we?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, or maybe I can forward the presentation, the PowerPoint, later on.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I guess we can conclude here. Many thanks to you, Dr. Ali. Many thanks for you who attended this session. Wish you all a very good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.